Hello and welcome back to another update where I cover the latest developments throughout the front line in the Russo-Ukrainian war. It is your host Whip Union, and in this one there are some advances by the Russians in the eastern and southern section of the front line. There are numerous Russian assaults that have not yielded results, as the Russians did not manage to consolidate their positions but managed to defeat the Ukrainian forces in the area, leaving a gray zone. The Ukrainians in turn managed to regain some positions here in the Sumy region as they attempt to counterattack now that the Russian offensive operations in the area has slowed down, likely as a result of these counterattacks. Starting out in the southern section of the front line, the Russians expand the zone of control within the town of Melanfka as they continue their offensive operations in the northern direction within the town. The Russians are here looking to gain control of additional streets within the town as they continue their offensive operations within it. They are largely attacking with infantry groups that have managed to consolidate their positions within it and entrench themselves within it. Following that, artillery strikes clear out some of the buildings, to which the Russian forces move further up. The Russians also using IEDs to demolish some of these buildings if they detect a Ukrainian soldier within it, as well as grenades to clear rooms within buildings, as well as basements. The Russians are here expanding the zone of control around the road to secure the supply road into the town to allow additional forces to move into it. The more forces the Russians have within it, the faster they'll be able to gain full control of it, which will lead to a bridgehead across the river line, which the Russians will advance alongside the northern flank into Poltavka and onwards towards the defensive line, potentially expanding westwards towards the Sele, Seleny High and Vysoke as well. Further north, the Russians have launched several operations to the east of Pocros towards the defensive line of the Ukrainians. However, they are facing heavy resistance by the Ukrainian forces, this allowing them to consolidate some of these positions. Following heavy artillery barrages, MLR strikes and FAB strikes, the Russians launched several assaults. However, they were unable to gain these positions as the Ukrainians launched counterattacks regularly. We see a significant increase in Ukrainian counterattacks this week compared to the past few months, which indicates a new operation by the Ukrainians to actively launch counterattacks on the Russian positions to slow down their advances or stop them completely, which has led to a significant slowdown of Russian offensive operations and the territory gained, as we see an example of here, where in the past few weeks the Russians would have gained these territories and consolidated their positions. The Ukrainians have now increased their efforts to prevent this from happening and are succeeding in some areas while slowing down the Russian forces in others. The Russians have managed to gain control over the intersection in the northern flank of Yaplenivka, leading to the fortified positions in the northern and eastern directions, as well as connecting with the town of Yaplenivka. They have also managed to gain control over an additional road leading into Yaplenivka from the southern flank, allowing for additional supplies to go into the town from additional roads. And they are also advancing in the eastern direction, moving through the town itself into the farm area in the southern flank and into expanding the zone of control within the town. To the north of Toretsk, the Russians expand the zone of control within Delivka, re-entering and expanding the zone of control within the town and fighting over the fortified positions just outside of it. Russians are here looking to gain control of it, which will allow for additional connection towards Bilaora for offensive operations in that direction. In the northern section of the front line, the Ukrainians launched a counterattack, pushing the Russians out of Vereshchina and regaining control over some of these forest patches. The Ukrainians do not have a lot of armored vehicles left. This forces them to launch these operations relying mainly on infantry and FPV drones. This is why the forest operations are much more beneficial and advantageous to the Ukrainians to fight within. The Russians have been pushed out of these forest patches as the geographics does not allow them to have a stable supply line into them with infantry compared to the Ukrainian side, which can take advantage of the forest patches to concentrate infantry and move through them. These forests provide a lot of cover for reconnaissance, especially in the summer where the trees are fully grown. This makes it virtually impossible for the Russians to detect what sort of troop size, the movement and so on of Ukrainian forces defending in this section of the front line, allowing them to concentrate forces and launch counterattacks and regain some of these positions. Following that, they launched FPV drone strikes and artillery strikes on Vereshchina to kick out the Russian forces and attempt to re-enter the town. However, they have been unable to do so far, which leaves the town itself in the gray zone. And that is going to be all for this update. Thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, check out my Patreon and YouTube membership for additional content. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.